Hello and welcome. You're watching Your Trades on ET Now with me, Snehisha, and with me as always is Priyanka. And let's take a look at how today's trading session has panned out. And overall, well, a rather flat session coming in when Nifty has closed with a negative bias of almost 0.3%. Today, Sensex also down 0.2%. India Wix also rather flat, so not much to worry about on that front. But what really caught the eye today was the entire small cap space, because even mid cap was trying to lend some support. It closed with a positive bias of around 0.2%, but it was the small cap index today that outperformed the entire market, of 1.1% gain coming in on that Nifty small cap index as well. Let's talk about a couple of gainers and losers today. BPCL, ICICI Bank, Bharti Airtel, Britannia, BEL, all of these did well for the Nifty. However, what weighed on the Nifty majorly today was HDFC Life on the back of the numbers that we saw coming in today. HDFC AMC's numbers also came out today. You had Bajaj Auto, whose numbers are coming tomorrow, and the stock was down 3% before that. Wipro down 3%, Bajaj Finance down. You had Hindalco and Reliance also. Reliance was also down 2% in today's trade on the back of a rather lackluster set of numbers that were reported yesterday. Largely, this is what the market breadth was looking like. Realty was your top sectoral gainer, metals was your loser, auto, energy, pharma, IT. All of these counters have ended the day in the red as well. But let's talk about some other areas that were buzzing today, and one sector or one group of stocks that did well today were the crude sensitive stocks, the likes of HPCL, BPCL, IOC, or you talk about paint stocks, Asian Paints, Berger Paints. All of these have done well on the back of a drop that came in the crude prices. Hyundai IPO has also opened for subscription today. Remember, the anchor book had opened yesterday and the retail subscription has opened today. And well, largely these were what caught my attention in today's trade, and largely the highlights of today's trading session. But Priyanka, what were you spotting?
Absolutely, Snehi. Just look at the IT pack also. In fact, Infosys, HCL Tech, they made the record high levels today, and of course the kind of numbers which HCL Tech has posted. Now all eyes on the other upcoming numbers, especially Infosys, Mastech going forward. But then talking about Bajaj Auto ahead of the numbers, that stock is of course trading with a little bit of pressure here, because EBITDA margin expected to expand, though there's going to be a better net pricing. But then entire auto pack, if you look at it, there is some sort of slowdown, which even experts are voicing about the entire space. And let's see how the numbers pan out. But the revenue growth is likely to be supported by the volume growth and of course better realization. Let's see how this pans out. But then Divi's that stock tumbled, but if you see a very smart recovery, it of course came down to a level of 6020, and especially on the news that Interesto, that's one of the largest drug in Divi's CDMO portfolio also. Nearly 18% of the contribution comes in from the overall CDMO portfolio. But then stock did slip to 6020 when its bid got rejected. The news came in, but then there was a smart recovery, and of course the stock ended to close with a loss of 1.7%. And of course the kind of move we are tracking the India Canada row. The India had expelled 6 Canadian diplomats. That also one area which needs to be looked at, how this entire space pans out, the development which pans out with the course of time. But then moving on, let's get you the view on the index now. Shilpa Rout, derivative head for Prabhudas Lilladher, she joins in. Shilpa, very warm welcome. Welcome to Your Trades. Of course, the bulls have been holding 25,000 levels, especially after it reclaimed its 50 DMA. But some sort of resistance, which we were talking also, mild call writing, which we could see on the upper levels, and that's what we have seen clearly on the index. What is your view shaping up for Nifty, Bank Nifty both?
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me on the show. Talking about indices, we see that Nifty is well holding above 25,000 mark. In the recent close of also 24,850 to 24,900 is actually forming like a very good base. And in the near term, if we continue to hold above this, the levels of 25,500 to 25,700 can again come in. Of course, any sort of strong trend reversal will only happen once Nifty closes above 25,300. So till then, it is still not a very bad texture for the for Nifty, but little buying levels around 24,900 to 25,000 mark, definitely one should go long. Talking about Bank Nifty is a shade better, but of course, a closing above 52,000 only will add some sort of conviction for the index to go to the higher levels of 54,000.
Okay, so those are the levels that you are watching on the Nifty, Shilpa. But moving on, also tell us about what stocks are looking attractive to you right now, given that markets have been rather flat going, about the course of the last week as well, rather lackluster. Where are you seeing pockets of value going ahead?
Definitely, some stock-specific movements happening and sector-specific rotation that is happening. OMCs are doing very well run nowadays. So from here, GAIL, if you look at, there's one counter from that pack. If you look at it, has given a good breakout and it is sustaining above 230. So as long as it is trading around 230, 232 levels, this consolidation can definitely help the stock move higher toward 245 to 250 levels. So with a stop loss of 227, the risk reward is very favorable for a long trade here. The other one would be a buy in LTF today. LTF, we saw a very decisive, good trading happening at around 165 zones. So 160 to 165 holds a very crucial support zone for the stock. And if we, sustain these levels, a quick up move towards 180, in fact, 190 can also happen. So there's a lot of upside with a limited downtrend play in the stock as well.
All right, so L&T Finance on the buy side as well as GAIL on the buy side. Two recommendations coming in from Shilpa. Thanks very much, Shilpa, for sharing your views and your recommendations for everyone. But moving on, Srishti also joins in and she has two stocks for us on the technical pattern that she's spotted. Srishti.
Well, two counters, one on the breakout side and the other one is on the breakdown side, since the market is giving the moves on both the sides. Firstly, let's have a look at the breakout candidate, and this is from the real estate pack. Prestige Estate on your screen, and very good formation happening. And today what we have seen is that the stock managed to once again break above its key resistance of 1890 rupees, I beg your pardon. And a very interesting setup. Why? So because if you take the clock a little back, and you will see the same sort of a consolidation happen in the stock earlier. We have seen a good run up, and then the stock has been consolidating for quite some time now. But for today, it was indeed a strong green candle for this stock, and taking a bounce exactly from its 20-day moving average, and once again retesting its resistance level, helped us to pick that stock as a breakout candidate for today. Moving on to the next counter, and that is indeed a breakdown stock, because Tata Motors on the charts, if you will see, has been facing some sort of a downward movement, and it is once again retesting its crucial support level of around 910, because for multiple times the stock has taken a support. But for today, there was a consolidation that was happening for almost a week now, and the stock did end the day at the lowest point. Other than that, facing a rejection exactly from its 20-day moving average, and hence we wish to spot this as a breakdown candidate. So these are the two stocks. Back to you guys.
Alright, Srishti, thanks so much for flagging off both of those stocks for our viewers on the charts. But let's move on then. And the India Mobile Congress 2024 is currently underway, featuring some top industry leaders sharing their visions for the future of technology. Bharti Enterprises' Sunil Bharti Mittal suggested that satellite companies should also secure networks like telcos do, while KM Birla reaffirmed the company's commitment to capex plans as well. Let's go across and listen in.
Satellite companies who have ambitions to come into urban areas serving elite retail customers just need to take the telecom licenses like everybody else. Be bound with the same conditions. They need to buy the spectrum as the telecom companies buy. They need to pay the license fee as the telecom companies do, and also secure their networks like telecom companies do. This is a simple solution which can be done on a global scale, and India can again show the way in this particular regard.
The company's 18,000 crore FPO, marking the largest of its kind in India, was met with overwhelming enthusiasm. It was oversubscribed 7 times overall and an astonishing 19 times amongst institutional investors. Fundraise has enabled the company to kickstart again its capex cycle. Vodafone Idea has already announced the next phase of capex detail, worth $3.6 billion, with 3 global partners, Nokia, Ericsson, and Samsung.
The scale and speed of multilingual data generation in India, which will drive the AI revolution, will grow exponentially. We request the government to expedite the updating of the 2020 draft of the data center policy that Indian data should remain in India data centers. Therefore, Indian companies ready to set up AI and machine learning data centers should get all necessary incentives, including incentives for power consumption.
Right, that's the key voice coming in from the Mobile Congress event. Moving on, Rana Gupta, who's a senior portfolio manager for India equity specialist for Manulife Investment Management, has a constructive view on India. He's bullish on digitalization as a theme and even likes rising local manufacturing theme. Listen in a slice for you from the entire conversation.
We have been bullish for a long time on the digitalization trend, on the local manufacturing picking up, add to that now the financialization trend. All that makes us pretty constructive over the longer term. And also the local flows phenomenon, I don't think it's properly yet, people see this, but I think how long-term it can be and what kind of demand for equities can create, I think is still not very clearly understood. I think it's a very big opportunity for the longer term.
Okay, well, on that note, we'll slip into a very short break on this edition of Your Trades. When we return, we'll take a look at everything else that summed up in today's trading session. Just on the other side of the short break, you stay tuned.
Welcome back. You're watching Your Trades, and now let's get to the action from the derivative space. Of course, the trend has changed a little for Nifty. Now, the trend, in fact, it's reversed completely for Nifty. Now, it's a short built up. And for Bank Nifty, it's a mild long built up. Now, the VIX was at 13 level. Of course, the way we have reclaimed the level on Nifty, bulls have been at least holding 25,000 level. And the kind of move we've seen, the selling we've seen on FI, their index futures, the position still stands at the same level. But now Nifty, the upper strike seems as a resistance now, 25,100, 25,200. There is a call writing which seems like a resistance for now for the market as of now. But talking about the support at the lower levels, 25,000 as well as 24,900, there seemed to be a mild put unwinding as well as some mild put buying also. So could be a very narrow range where market could trade, the reason the FNO data indicates.
All right, that looks interesting. That's an interesting bunch of derivatives data coming by. But let's shift focus and talk about the big story of the day. And the much anticipated day is here, in fact, because the South Korean parent Hyundai Motor Company owned Hyundai Motor India is going to create history in the India's capital markets by launching the biggest ever IPO. But let's understand more about this issue and how Hyundai stacks up against the other Indian auto majors. And for that, my colleague Shrishti is standing by. Shrishti.
A lot of excitement related to India's biggest ever IPO, and that is Hyundai IPO, wherein just ahead of the IPO, we have seen great response coming in from the anchor investors. Given the size, the company has raised 8,315 crores from 225 investors, 34.4% allotted to 21 domestic mutual funds. And apart from that, you will see all the marquee names in this big list, from the likes of, if we talk about BlackRock, JP Morgan, Government of Singapore, Fidelity, Vanguard, all these names are present, have been participating in Hyundai IPO anchor book. But apart from that, let's also highlight the key strengths and the weaknesses that we are spotting in this particular IPO. In terms of the strengths, as we know, it's the second largest in terms of the passenger vehicle market share, holds around 15% market share versus 40% above of Maruti Suzuki. But in comparison to Maruti Suzuki, it does have better margins because it drives more than 60% of its sales from the SUV segment, which is a high-end product. If we talk about the mix, then definitely they have more than 20% of the revenue coming in from exports, which also drives their margins. But on the flip side, there are some other risks as well. In terms of the biggest risk, it is a pure OFS. No money is coming into the company. It's just the parent Hyundai who is taking an exit. Other than that, in terms of the valuation, there's just 20% discount to Maruti's FY26 PE estimates, wherein given to the Maruti's market share, it is quite reasonable, but nothing that lucrative. Other than that, there is a related party transaction because Hyundai parent company also holds a stake in Kia Motors, and Kia also has a good presence in India. So that is something that you should take a note of. And these are some of the risks that we wish to highlight at this price.
Very much, Shrishti, but straight away let's take you to the cabinet meet. Assembly election dates are expected to be announced. Let's take you directly there.
The constituencies like Doda 72%, Riyasi 74%, Punch 74%, Rajouri 71%. If they can go 70 plus, Kulaba can also go 40 plus. In 24 Lok Sabha elections, Bastar was 68%, 69%. Gadchiroli, Manipur, states after state, tough areas. So we'll be requesting through you, we'll have a special drive this time for the slum areas in urban areas and also the colonies, all alike, to have a real urban push. I do not want to name specific thing, but there are booths in Faridabad and Gurgaon in the recently held elections, and they are the poshest places where voting has been around 20%. So again, we will be doing a lot of work on this to do whatever we can do to attract the urban voters. Now, friends, coming to Jharkhand. झारखंड एक बहुत ही समृद्ध स्टेट है, बहुत ही उसकी विरासत है, और वहां पर हम फिर से अपील करेंगे कि सब वोटर्स अधिक से अधिक मात्रा में वोट दें. शेड्यूल वुड बी लाइक दिस. झारखंड वुड बी इन 2 phases. The date of poll, first phase would be on 13th November, and the second phase would be along with Maharashtra on 20th November. So the date of issue of notification for Jharkhand phase 1 would be 18th, and for phase 2 would be 22nd, along with Maharashtra. Nominations for phase 1 would be till 25th of October, and for phase 2, 29th. This slide we will share with everyone. And date of poll would be 13th November and 20th November, both Wednesdays. And date of counting would be 23rd 11, that is Saturday. With this, we end our presentation. With this, we end our presentation with the request that through you, that all the voters of Jharkhand and Maharashtra कृपया बाहर आइए, कृपया वोट करिए. लोकतंत्र के उत्सव में आपकी भागीदारी कि हम बहुत ही रिक्वेस्ट करते हैं, अपील करते हैं आपसे. Thank you very much.
So by elections. So we will come back. We'll come back. So,
okay. Sorry. By election.
Okay, well, that's the word coming in from Rajiv Kumar, the Chief Election Commissioner of India. The election schedules for Maharashtra and Jharkhand have been announced. Maharashtra Assembly polls to be held in a single phase on 20 November and counting to be taken place on the 23rd of November. You also had the Jharkhand election schedule being announced, and that is going to be taking place in 2 polls and in 2 phases, in fact, and the first phase is going to be taking place on the 13th of November. That's what we've just heard from the Election Commissioner. But let's come back to the markets, and in the development that could impact Divi's Labs, a federal judge has rejected Novartis's motion to vacate the FDA nod for a rival generic version of its heart drug Entresto. Now remember, Novartis has a CDMO contract with Divi's Labs, and my colleague Varun Dubey is joining us with the details of this development and what this could potentially mean for Divi's Labs going ahead. Varun.
Well, so let me first take you to the news, because Novartis has lost the bid to vacate the FDA approval for its blockbuster heart failure drug Entresto, and this case was between MSN and Novartis. So actually what happened is, in the month of July, MSN has actually got an ANDA approval to launch the generic version of this heart failure drug, against which Novartis went ahead and they have filed a lawsuit against MSN. Earlier this month, the US District Court of Delaware has actually ruled against Novartis for blocking this drug, and now the federal judge has rejected Novartis' plea to stop the generic version of this drug. Now this is a big win for MSN and it is a loss for Novartis. Now how will this impact Divi's? Because Divi's is actually having a CDMO contract with Novartis, and Divi's actually supplies the API for this heart failure drug, that is Entresto. And if we look at the recent Kotak note, and
all right, so these are the observation basis, the Kotak note. That's what Varun was bringing in for us. Thanks very much, Varun. But the stock also did very smartly recovered to close with the loss of 1.7%. But Gaurav is standing by now with the list of stocks that were buzzing in trade today. Gaurav, over to you.
Well, yes, let's begin our list with DB Corp. We have got weak set of numbers from this company. We saw revenue declined almost by 4.5% on a YY basis, while net profit declined almost by 17%. When we talk about EBITDA margin, there also we saw some kind of contraction. As a result, we saw some negative reaction in this stock. Next, let's talk about HDFC Life, because when we look at the numbers, we saw APE growth was at around 31%, which was largely a little bit above street's expectation. VNB growth was in line with the street's expectation, but when we talk about VNB margins, there we saw a bit of a fall, which was a surprise, negative surprise for the stock. As a result, we saw some pressure in this counter as well. Next, we have is Angel One. There we saw positive numbers, because when we talk about revenue, those increased almost by 45%, while net profit increased almost by 40%. Other than that, during the con call, company said that the F&O norms will impact around 13 to 14% of the total income from clients, but apart from that, they have maintained their EBITDA guidance of around 45%. As a result, we saw some uptick in this counter. Up next, we have is Bharti Airtel, and the news here is that now Kia India has signed a business with Bharti Airtel Business as a connectivity partner for their Kia 2.0. Now this will give another avenue for revenue for Bharti Airtel, and that is the reason why we saw some uptick in this counter. And lastly, let's also focus on VA Tech Wabag, because this company recently won a mega order worth more than 1,000 crore rupees.
Okay, Gaurav, thanks for bringing us that quick list of all the big buzzers in today's trade. But on that note, it's a wrap on this edition of Your Trades. Thank you so much for watching.